An interesting topic because Meritorious manumission actually talks about what's happening right now in our society. Right now, you see how many of y'all noticed this? Has anybody else noticed how many of the black celebrities, are? How about this? I'm gonna ask y'all a trick question. Um, in the war going on in the Middle East between Israel and and Hamas, or let's say Israel and the Palestinians. I don't know, depending on how you describe it. Which side do you think most black celebrities are taking? Which side which side of the black celebrities kind of jumping on? Does anybody know? Can anybody guess? What do y'all think? Israel. Yeah, Israel. Most black celebrities and most wealthy people, most politicians. I think Van Jones is holding a march for Israel or something like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. But the thing that sparks my interest as a finance professor is why most black celebrities are even taken aside in the first place, and also I'm willing to bet you that money, is the motive in terms of who people choose to support. And in fact, I'll just tell you that I've spoken about the Zionist community in terms of their ability to exert tremendous economic power around the world, which allows them to have tremendous amounts of political power, which therefore allows them to really, really just sort of pursue whatever agenda they want to pursue. Which might include things like, you know, uh, calling anybody who disagrees with them an anti-Semite, right? We saw what they did with Louis Farrakhan, and Farrakhan, thank goodness, is suing them right now for $5 billion, and I support that lawsuit completely. But generally speaking, I want you to pay attention to how economics kind of drives decision making. And I was actually having a conversation with our middle child. She's super smart. Her name's Nicole, and she actually is the one. If you go to drboycebooks.com and you order my books, like the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, she's the one that will actually be shipping the book to you, right? Anyway, Nicole, we were talking about slavery, and I said one misconception about slavery is that people think that to be a slave you have to be unpaid. They think that the only slaves that exist are unpaid. And I said that slavery doesn't mean you're not paid. Slavery means that you don't have freedom. Slavery means that you can't do what you want to do. And I said there's a whole lot of paid slaves in our society. And these are basically people that may make a lot of money. Some of them make $10 million a year, but they don't have freedom of choice. They can't sort of do what they want to do, believe what they want to believe, say what they want to say. So they don't have freedom. And slavery, if you ask me, is pretty much the lack of freedom, a lack of freedom, right? So a lot of our celebrities in our community, we know, are really very high paid slaves. That's what they are. Or in the words of William Roden, they are $40 million slaves. If you remember that term, he coined in his famous book. And so ultimately, when I see what's happening in the Middle East in terms of how certain black people are just going out of their way to take a side. And again, everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe. I would be willing to bet you that if you change the financial incentives, that if you took the money out of the equation, a lot of the people who are saying certain things about this war would not be saying the same thing that they're saying. Their position would not be their position. Their position would change. And this is where these are the types of applications of finance and wealth and money that I'm most interested in. I've been a black man my whole life. And I became really intrigued by two things related to money. Two big things. One was how money affects relationships. Like I learned this when I became 31 and I was making over $100,000 a year, and suddenly I became very handsome. When I made $1 million a year, I became really handsome. And I didn't understand how I got handsome because I had more money. So that led me to study, become fascinated with people's fascination with money and their false belief that somehow a man having money, and it's usually for men, but women get their own version of it too, where a man having money somehow makes him a good man. I didn't understand how I suddenly became a good catch because I had all this money, because I thought I was a pretty good catch when I was in grad school and I couldn't pay the rent. But then again, my ability to provide financial security affected the way I was perceived by the world. But then there's the other aspect of that where I became very intrigued with how money affects the freedom or lack thereof of black people. Give me a yes if you understand this. Give me a yes if you're following this here. Millions of black people in this country, millions of black people in this country, millions of black people in this country cannot do what they want because they don't have money and don't have any understanding of money and don't have any understanding of how to access money. Let me know if you follow what I'm saying. That imagine if black people became the most economically intelligent group of people on the planet, if they did that one thing, if we committed to being as sharp with our economics as we are with basketball and football, as disciplined with our economics as we are with making sure our back is straight when we're twerking, or making sure that we can get that jump shot right on line to hit those 3-pointers. If we were just as disciplined in our economics as we are at how to really flow as a rapper and get your lyrics out real nice, we would be on top of this world. We would have all the freedom that we deserve. If we were just as focused on our economics as we are on making sure our hair gets done every week, we would be dominating. We will be absolutely the most dominant force on this entire planet, because you're already one of the richest communities on the planet. If you were a country, you'd be one of the richest countries on the planet. You do know that, right? You do understand that. So ultimately, somebody said, "How you know your back got to be straight when you twerk?" Well, I've observed twerking. I've never twerked in my life. I've never tried to twerk. If my wife caught me twerking, y'all be hearing about me being in divorce court, because my wife don't play with that. But anyway, with that being said, though, in all seriousness, I think that generally speaking, we have to, as Black people, just really understand what the problem is. And the problem is economics. Economics is the problem, but yet economics is the solution. Economics is the bad news, but it's also the good news. It's the barrier, but it's also the opportunity. It's the obstacle, but it's also the way. And what that means is that basically, if we nail that one issue, really nail down the economics, then that will give us access to the freedom that we talk about. And so Dr. Claude Anderson talks about one form of economic control and economic warfare in his book, The Black History Reader. Now I'm going to open up to page 37 of The Black History Reader. You can get a copy of this book at powernomics.com. And we're on page 37, and he asked question number 12. Question number 12 is, what was meritorious manumission, and does it still apply to Blacks? Now, why did I bring up Israel and the meritorious manumission context? Well, because meritorious manumission basically refers to rewards that Black people receive for following and pursuing agendas that other people may have, right? So you get these special treatments, these butter biscuits, for doing what you're told and following the agenda. And so ultimately, Tierra, I see Tierra and Shauna. Everybody thank Tierra and Shauna for helping us out. We always have our support people in here. So if you need anything or you have any questions about the Black Business School, they can help you. And also that blackmoney101.com URL that you see on the screen. Feel free to go to blackmoney101.com. That's kind of it's a financial freedom academy that's very low cost and affordable to any family. You can share your membership with anybody in your family, your lifetime membership. So feel free to go to blackmoney101.com if you'd like to take a look. But they hold it down for us. So we have excellent customer service here in the Black Business School. We always take care of you. So meritorious manumission means that you get rewards, Ray Daniel. You get rewards for basically doing what other people tell you to do. The vast economic power is used to achieve a certain agenda by taking Black people and commodifying Black people and using us as a pathway to sort of basically get things done. Money is power. Money is power. Money is power. We cannot forget this. We must always understand this, that in a capitalist society, money is like a religion. Money is like a god. And basically, you cannot have power in a capitalist society if you don't have some form of wealth. Okay. All right. So meritorious manumission. Let me read this to you. Give me a second. Meritorious manumission was a legal act of freeing a slave for good deeds as defined by the national public policy. The term meritorious means something earned. Manumission means becoming free or freedom. So meritorious means you earned, and then manumission means freedom. So you earned your freedom. So during slavery, a slaveholder could grant freedom to a slave who distinguished himself by, and these are the things you did back during slavery to get your butter biscuit, your meritorious manumission. A lot of our Black celebrities are economic slaves. They're earning meritorious manumission today. All right. So it says here, a slave who distinguished himself by saving the life of a white person, inventing or designing something that enriched a white person, so making white people rich, or snitched on other members of his race, especially those Blacks who were resisting and contemplating a revolt. So basically, slaves were rewarded, according to Dr. Anderson, by either saving white people, helping white people get rich, or harming Black people, snitching on Black people, Black slaves that chose to be free. So effectively, meritorious manumission still exists today. Right? It still exists today. In fact, if you want to see some subtle symbolism that connects to meritorious manumission, in my view, is if you watch a lot of movies, like I love Denzel Washington, he's one of my favorite actors. But if you notice in a lot of his movies, he's saving a white person. Anybody notice that? than a lot of his movies. He's saving a little white girl or something like that. And I'm not saying that's bad. I like Denzel. I'm not dissing Denzel at all, but I think that if he were saving a little black girl in all these movies, those movies wouldn't be seen the same, right? Remember, he got awards for Training Day, but he did not get an award for Malcolm X. Right? They recognized him for things he did, other films that he did, but they didn't recognize him for things like Glory or anything that sort of exalted any sort of rebellious or strong energy from the black community. Now, anyway, so saving the life of a white person, write this down, inventing or designing something that made white people rich. So we get rewarded if we make other folks money. Right now, D1, a very good friend of mine, D1 was at our last All Black National Convention. He's been to several of them, maybe about 4 now. D1 is also a guy who is he's a strong Christian. He understands money. He's a good businessman. He's the only rapper I know anywhere that turned down a deal from Cash Money Records. He had the opportunity to rap right next to Lil Wayne, and he chose not to because he realized that was not okay. So he got a supporting actor Oscar for Glory. Okay, thank you, Kendall. Thank you for clearing. I didn't know that, so I stand corrected on that. Thank you for sharing that with me, Kendall. I appreciate that. So D1 is a guy who is part of this industry that uses meritorious manumission on a regular basis. And the areas where meritorious manumission is being used in hip hop might be enriching white people, right? You get money to go out and call yourself the N-word and to share messages that will send little black boys to prison because they need little black boys to fill up the penitentiaries because they don't want to put little white girls in the prisons. They don't put white girls in prison. They put black boys in prison. And then they've even got you to the point where some of these kids actually are excited about the idea of going to prison. They consider that to be like a badge of honor. And then also that part about snitching on other black people or basically undermining any sort of revolt or revolution that's occurring in the black community. That's where people that sort of speak what you might call black liberation talk are seen as dangerous. You know, like I still don't understand exactly why my Instagram page got taken down. I still have an Instagram. You can follow me at Dr. Boyce Finance if you're looking for me on Instagram, Dr. Boyce Finance. But as you guys know, I had 460,000 people on Instagram or something, almost 500,000, and they just deleted it. It was just gone. They didn't tell me why. They didn't really explain. They said, you violated our policies. And I said, what did I do? Did I kill somebody? Did I go to jail? Did I put naked ladies on my screen? Did I show, AK-47s and, what did I do? And they didn't explain. There's no explanation, right? Well, I understand the explanation. It's that sort of black liberation talk gets defined and labeled as racist talk. And because I'm speaking on issues that reflect the black community or impact the black community, I know that that's going to be seen in a way that's not consistent with the spirit with which I'm sharing this information. I want you to be strong. I want you to be empowered. I don't want you to live under the illusion that people who are not your friends are really your friends. I don't want you to live under the illusion that things like equality really exist. I don't want you living under the false illusion that somehow integration was a full-fledged process that included the upward mobility of black people. I was explaining to our middle child, Nicole, the really smart one. I said to her today, I said, you have one of the most important jobs in this country. I said, when people order books from us and they order books like Powernomics, you're shipping those books to those people. What we're doing is we are being revolutionary by educating our own people. We are making sure that our children know the things they need to know. I said Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson is the economic Bible of the black community. His book is more important than any book I've ever written. It's more important than any book I will ever write. And you are part of the Underground Railroad. You are shipping all these books out to the community and people that are going to educate their own kids so that we really understand what really happened. Because one of the things that Dr. Anderson does in his book right here, and I'm gonna try to slow down. I hope I'm not talking too fast. Forgive me, but I'm just letting it flow out as it flows out. So I apologize. I'll try to not talk too quickly. But basically, what Dr. Anderson does in the book the Black History Reader is he's giving you the secrets. He's giving you the information they don't give you in public school. Like how many? Give me a yes or no. Let's do a quick test. Give me a yes or no. How many of you heard about meritorious manumission in public school? How many of y'all went to a public school where there was one day where you had a lesson on meritorious manumission, and they explained how it all works and what they did to slaves, and and how money was used and freedom and all these other enticements were used to convince black people to either or to reward black people for saving the life of a white person, making white people rich, or snitching on black people. Anybody ever heard of meritorious manumission in public school? Yes or no? Let's ask another yes or no question. Yes or no? Did anybody here, did anybody heard the story about how they use black babies as alligator bait? back in the day. Did anybody hear about that in public school? How many of y'all went to a public school that taught you that they use black babies as alligator bait? Give me a yes or no. Anybody, did your teachers didn't make sure you knew that right after they talked to you about George Washington and Martin Luther King and stuff like that? Okay. So here's what I want you to kind of think about, right? This is the line of thinking I want you to take. When I find out something, when I find out one thing, I'm not focused on the one thing I found out. See, if there's the things you know, and then there's the things you don't know, and then there's the things you don't know. Okay, so let me explain. So if let's say I go in my kitchen and I see a roach come out from under the refrigerator, and I grab that roach and say, "Oh my God, we got a roach in the house. Let me kill that sucker." So I step on that roach and kill that roach. Let me ask you a question. Give me a yes or no. Do you think I've killed all the roaches in the house? Yes or no? Do you think all the roaches are gone? Do you think the roach problem has ended now? Now that I found the one roach that was hiding under the refrigerator, because clearly roaches don't have families and they don't move in packs. They're just lone rangers. So I ended the roach problem. Hell no, 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 no. That roach I killed, that's not the end of anything. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of the discovery process. I've literally just scratched the surface of a whole nother reality that I still need to go explore and be exposed to. Do you understand? I got to go. Now that I've seen that there's one roach in the house, if I'm intelligent Black people understand this. All of you are intelligent. As an intelligent Black person, I'm thinking, oh man, we must have a nest of roaches in this house. There's more where that came from. This is the beginning. So that's what happens when you find out one little thing about what your ancestors went through. When you find that one story that just makes you almost want to vomit, like that they took Black babies, put them in a cage, dipped them in the water so they could catch alligators. The alligators would want to come eat the baby. You shouldn't spend all your time. You should spend a little bit of time being outraged about the story you heard. But what you should be most outraged about, in my opinion, are all the thousands and 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 thousands of stories that you haven't heard yet. You found one roach. You ain't got to the nest. Oh, they kept all the good stuff from you. For every story you heard, there's probably 10,000 stories that are 10 times worse that you never will ever hear in your life. And so what you got to do is don't just think about the known, and don't just take that little snippet, that little dribble, that little crumb of the unknown. You need to focus on the universe of the unknown unknowns. Do you understand? Like when I finished grad school and I finished my doctorate, the biggest thing I learned when I got my PhD was how little I actually know. The best thing that my education gave me was an understanding of the scope of just how vast the universe of knowledge is, and that I can't possibly know it all. So effectively, there is a universe of realities and experiences that your ancestors went through, stories that will never be told, stories that were not documented, stories that never got in anybody's book. Even Dr. Claude Anderson never heard these stories that you will never be told. So this is beyond just knowledge and what you know. You have to almost meditate and truly try to connect and empathize with the fact that there are all these other horrors in the dark that you will never, ever be exposed to. I can't tell you about those things because I can only tell you what's in some of these books. Okay. So I think that it's important for us to understand it and to view it that way. So when we talk about meritorious manumission or the alligator bait, or I think I heard a story one time, a horrible story about a lady who got her baby, she a pregnant lady got her baby cut out of her stomach right before they were about to lynch her. Things like that. That's the beginning. And I think that if we really want to empathize and connect with our ancestors and show respect to them, we have to take the time to meditate on all the thousands of stories that we know we did not get told, and to know that what we know is like the tip of this pen, and what we don't know is the size of this city. The knowledge base we don't know is as big as the city of Chicago, and the knowledge that we actually have is like the tip of this ink pen. So don't get mad about what you know. I need you to get mad about what you don't know, and then what you don't know that you don't know. Okay. So anyway, let me keep going here. Let me keep reading. All right. So we're on the Black History Reader, Dr. Claude Anderson. You can get this book not just at powernomics.com, but you can also go to Amazon and get a copy. He says here on page 37, He says blacks, let's see here, meritorious manumission policies were not intended to unify slaves or make them self-supportive human beings. Instead, the policies were designed to keep blacks non-threatening and under control. That works. Meritorious manumission became a public policy in the early 1700s. So it wasn't just an unwritten rule. It was something that they actually put in the public policy and was introduced into the Virginia legislature as a law in 1710. So you talk about staying on code. That movie that we made, B1 the movie, which, by the way, we'll get it out before Christmas. We're going to do a black movie night. I know I've been talking to you guys about this movie. It's been done. It's really, really good. Rick Mathis has done some screenings around the country and they're sold out. People love the movie. I promise you we'll do a black movie night. All the black business school students, I'm going to let you guys watch it for free. So just be patient with us. We're just trying to run through some of the other things. We're trying to do so much here and we're trying to, that's one of the things we got to do before the end of the year. All right. So anyway, so being on code is really important. So they weren't just on code in terms of behavior. They were actually on code in terms of putting things into law, putting things on paper, right? And so incorporated into every aspect of the slavery system, it remained an active carrot and incentive through the social integration process, and it is still an operating principle at this present time. Meritorious manumission recognized and rewarded blacks who accepted their assigned position, but for personal gain would thwart openly or nefariously the efforts by other blacks to alter the racial status quo. Ain't that interesting? Ain't that interesting? So think about how meritorious manumission will be applied today when you have maybe the corporate Negro who doesn't want other black people to succeed because they enjoy saying, I'm the only black person in the marketing department. Has anybody ever heard that? Let me know if you've heard this before, where there are black people who will say, Madam President, for example, who talks a lot about corporate trauma and the trauma you go through from the corporate plantation. This is very serious trauma. It does kill you. And one thing that Madam President has said consistently that I agree with is she said that I have been treated worse by some of my black managers than by some of my white ones. She said that some of the mentors I've had who really opened doors for me and helped me rise to the top, helped me succeed, they were white people. And a lot of you have mentioned this experience before. And I think that this is linked to things like meritorious manumission, because what he's saying is that there were black folks that were elevated to the top. And part of their job and their elevation was to be gatekeepers and to block others from having the same opportunity, right? So let's see here. He says the first person to be known to have received meritorious manumission set the baseline for benefits. Peter M. Bergman, in his book, The Chronological History of the Negro, said that, quote, the first person to receive meritorious manumission was a Negro named Will, who was recognized for having impeded a slave revolt in the South Carolina colony. So Will stopped the slave revolt, so they took good care of him. He was awarded his freedom for performing a public service. Will's freedom papers provided that he enjoy and have all the liberties, privileges, and immunities of or to be a free Negro. Once the public policy was in place, an endless number of slaves became sensitive to freedom opportunities they could earn. So they knew that they could do better. They could get opportunities by snitching and saving white folks and helping them make money. In the 150 years between 1710 to 1860, blacks reportedly revealed the plans for over 300 possible slave revolts or insurrections. Slaves warned slaveholders or the general public of the pending revolts in hopes of receiving meritorious manumission in the forms of personal recognition and material benefits. 300 slave revolts, all stopped by meritorious manumission. Wow. Another notable example of a black person seeking meritorious manumission occurred on the eve of the Civil War. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown and his raiding party traveled to Harper's Ferry, Virginia, to capture weapons from a U.S. Marine Corps armory to use to free black slaves. When John Brown and his party entered the town, a black man who had already won meritorious manumission was sitting on the porch of the railroad station and recognized Brown and his party. The black man, Hayward Shepherd, ran to alert the town that Brown was in town to free the slaves. Brown's raiders shot Shepherd in the street. So they shot this dude. They shot this Negro. He was free to sit on the porch that evening because he was no longer a slave. In gratitude for Hayward Shepherd's outstanding behavior of placing white society's political economic interests above the freedom and needs of members of his own race, the town erected a monument honoring him. The Hayward Shepherd statue was stored beside the city's major museum and covered with a wooden box in the 1960s. The inscription on the statue that the town of Harper's Ferry erected to honor Hayward Shepherd read, Hayward Shepherd statue in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. That's what it said. Oh, sorry. Scratch that. I'm sorry. That's not what it said. That's just the caption. My bad. Here's what it said. You ready? It says, on the night of October 16th, Hayward Shepherd, an industrious, respected colored freedman, was mortally wounded by John Brown's raiders in pursuance of his duty as an employee of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Company. He became the first victim in this attempted insurrection. This boulder is erected by the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans as a memorial to Hayward Shepherd, exemplifying the character and faithfulness of thousands of Negroes who, under many temptations throughout subsequent years of war, so conducted themselves that no stain was left upon a record, which is the peculiar heritage of the American people and an everlasting tribute to the best in both races. I don't know about y'all. I don't even know what the hell that meant. I mean, it just sounded like he's a sellout, but that was a lot. Okay. Yeah, and that's oh, by the way, everybody, in case you don't know, you guys know we're doing a group trip to Africa, right? We're going to Egypt next year. We're going to keep an eye on what's going on in the Middle East to make sure everybody's safe. But Jay Cameron, who's taken just hundreds, if not thousands of people over to Egypt, he is partnering with the Black Business School, and he's going to take a group of us, and I'm going to join the group. My wife will be there with us, and we're going to go to Egypt. So in the chat, Shauna is sharing the link where you can join for the informational session. It's right there. Now, if you are not inside the Zoom and you want to take a look, just I put the link also on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins and the number 1. So feel free to go to Dr. Boyce Watkins 1 in order to take a look. And it's going to be tomorrow night, Thursday night, November 16th at I believe it's 8 p.m. Tiara, I can't remember. I don't remember the exact date, the exact time, but check out. I'm sure they're going to put the time in there. So anyway, if you guys want to learn about our group trip to Africa, you can do that. Also, every week in the Black Business School, we've really ramped up our activities. So, for example, today we had Ryan McCrary come in. He's a marketing expert. If you have a business, you want your business to grow, Ryan is a great guy for that. We had Asia Kirkendall, the inventor and creator of quantum wealth theory, which talks about money mindset, things like that. So we have a really active Black Business School lecture series that you guys can take a look at. You can do a free trial. If you in the chat, there should be a link to do a free trial in the lecture series. If you don't have the link, just text the word stock to 31996. If you text stock to 31996, I'll send you guys links to all the activities we have. So we're actually going to have 2 or 3 things per week happening in the Black Business School, including the Prime program. A lot of you are in the Prime program where we do stock options and how to earn income from stock options. So the Black Business School, we're really ramping up our activity, and I hope you guys enjoy what you see. We're really getting it done, and thanks to the great team that's really helping us with this. All right, so let's keep going here. So we're reading the book The Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson, and we're on page 40. And I don't know what the hell I just read with that statue. It just makes no sense. I didn't understand. Maybe my reading comprehension is low because it's late. I have no idea, but it didn't make any sense. But basically, Hayward Shepherd was a Black man who earned meritorious manumission by getting shot in the back by snitching on John Brown, and I believe he's the guy that ruined the John Brown revolt. I don't understand that, and it's really interesting because some people compare that same energy to the Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. I don't know if you remember Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman was this white dude who was on it wasn't the Stephen A. Smith show. It might as well have been called the First Take or whatever it was called. And they would have debates about racial issues, and Max would always he would say stuff that was pretty enlightened. You know, Max was really trying to be an ally. You know, I think he really seemed to have respect for the Black community. And Stephen A. would say something like completely on the other side. And then I think one of the guys, I think Terrell Owens, came in and said, you know, Stephen A., I hate to say this, but Max is blacker than you. And it makes me think about Meritorious manumission, because unfortunately, as great as Stephen A. Smith is, I don't hate the guy. I really don't. I've met him once and I respect him. But at the same time, he has a boss that he has to please, because his boss pays him $10 million a year. That boss is ESPN. And I've seen many occasions where Stephen A. has taken a position that has been a little bit problematic from a racial standpoint, in the sense that he's sort of preserving the master's space really well. I'll give you one example where I didn't understand why Stephen A. did this. It really just looked terrible to me. So here's what happened. Stephen A. said something that I actually agree with 100%. He was making actually a lot of sense. He was talking about domestic violence, and he said that hitting a woman is unacceptable under any circumstances. I agree with that 100%. And I want just every young black man listening anywhere, never ever, please never hit a woman. I know women sometimes hit men, but we ain't talking about that right now. I need you, if you get hit, walk away. Don't go around punching women. You know you're bigger and stronger than women. You have testosterone. Women don't have that. Stop it. And so anyway, Stephen A. made a clear point. Men should not put their hands on women. Agreed, right? Give me a yes if you agree with that statement. Simple statement, right? Well, one thing Stephen A. also mentioned was, he said, I have to tell my sisters, don't create situations that can cause domestic violence, because I don't want to have to go over there and end up fighting another man, because you're just, because you're staying out of pocket, or because you're doing everything you can to provoke him, and you're hitting him and doing all these other things, right? So what he was referring to are situations, and y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know, seriously, y'all know that women ain't weak. Women ain't always the victim. Women ain't always the one who's sitting there, damsel in distress. Some women, use victimhood as a weapon, right? We know these things, right? I hope we can acknowledge this. I hope it's okay to say this and to have you understand where I'm coming from. And so what he was basically saying is, don't be out here starting stuff. Don't be out here. Don't be hitting your man in the head with a frying pan and then gonna claim to be a victim when he punches you out or whatever, because that's unacceptable. But what your behavior was unacceptable too. You contributed to this. That's what he was saying. Well, in the world of liberal white people, there's no room for that argument. In that space, in the world of Me Too, there is no room for nuance. There is no room for, hey, maybe it was more complicated than man bad, woman good, or man evil, woman innocent. Maybe situations are a little more complicated than that. So Stephen A. made this point, right? So check this out. This is what's interesting, right? So this is white privilege and racism all in a nutshell. So here's what happened. So the next day, so let me just first of all put the context on it. ESPN has a policy, and their policy is, you cannot disparage other brands on this network. Their rule is, you cannot get on Twitter and talk crazy about your coworkers. We will not allow that on ESPN, right? So Stephen A. Smith can't get on Twitter and go off on, Michael Irvin, not Michael Irvin, not Terrell Owens, the other guy, Shannon Sharp, right? Shannon Sharp. He can't go on Twitter and talk crazy about Shannon, that, in a negative way, a disparaging way. He'll get in trouble for that, because they don't want the brands attacking each other, right? Just like you don't want Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse beating each other up in the street, right? So this lady, a white woman, who was upset, she was a feminist. She didn't like what Stephen A. said, so she went on Twitter and clearly violated ESPN's policy. Michelle Beadle, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I remember her name. So she literally violated the policy, because she just went Karen on it and felt, well, I'm a white woman who's offended, which means I'm allowed to break every rule, and I'm not going to be punished because I'm white and I'm a woman and I'm offended and someone hurt my feelings. So that gives me the right to break, to do all the things I want to do. And so she did not get fired. They did not fire her. And in fact, not only did they not fire her for a clear violation of company policy, they actually suspended Stephen A. Smith. They suspended him. And I remember saying, this is crazy to me that she broke the company rule and you didn't punish her at all. You rewarded her for breaking the rules, but you're going to suspend this black man because he said something that he could probably defend in an open debate. And that to me speaks to what happens when you're kind of in these controlled and contained spaces, which is another reason why I will always be an advocate for us really thinking bigger in terms of how we engage with things that we dominate. We dominate sports. Why don't we own a sports league? We dominate music. Why don't we own more of these record labels? We have so many areas where we are key contributors, we are key components, we are key ingredients for that success, but yet somehow we don't see ourselves as the owners or see ourselves as the boss. I was talking about somebody, and a lot of it comes down to your thinking. It's not about what you know all the time. It's really whether you think small or think big. It really is. Because I saw there was an article on some website where they said that the Las Vegas Raiders made history. And I was like, well, why did they make history? Oh, well, because they have a black coach. They're the first team in the NFL history to have a black coach, a black GM, and a black president, right? So they have black, and the person that hired them was the son of Al Davis. Al Davis used to own the Raiders when they were in Los Angeles. And so this guy, this little nerdy white dude he had a mullet, he had one of those weird looking haircuts, which almost looks like a pedophile or something. He looks real weird. He's a weird looking dude. But not to put that on him, though. I'm sure he's not. But still, Mark Davis, thank you. So Mark Davis made this selection. And I said, no, they did not make Black history. This is not Black history, people. I'm sorry. 3 Black people getting a job there's nothing historic about that. There's nothing, unless you consider the fact that it's just repeating history, right? We've had Black people get jobs before. And also there's nothing against Mark Davis and his father Al, who have a history of hiring Black people for certain positions. His father Al hired the first Black head coach, Art Shell, with the LA Raiders. So I love that. I respect that immensely, 100%. But I said, this is not Black history. I said, because if you call this Black history, what you're basically doing is you're acknowledging the white man as your economic god. You're acknowledging him as your economic god because he literally gets to sit back. Mark Davis can sit back and say, I think I'm going to make Black history today, because none of those people hired themselves. You can't create your own reality in someone else's organization. So the president, GM, and coach, no matter how qualified they are, they could not make Black history. If that's Black history, they wouldn't be able to do it, because you can't hire yourself. Someone else must hire you. So just like moving a chess piece on the board, he is the God creator, dungeon master that gets to decide how to move the Negroes around and make Black history. And I said, no, I said, okay, if you want to frame it as something, if you want to label it, maybe he made white history. I think Al Davis and Mark Davis made white history because they're clearly the first 2 white people in the NFL to understand how brilliant and capable and intelligent Black people are, how talented we are. So good for them. He made white history, but never on this planet or any other should you believe that white people have the right to make Black history. No, Black history is supposed to be made by you. Black history is supposed to be made by you. You're not out making white history. You're not out doing things in the white community and having them come back and saying, well, gosh, that was white history. You're not making Jewish history. How many Negroes in this room, how many Black people in this room really believe that you could go out right now and make some Jewish history or make Arab history or make Mexican history? You think Mexicans gonna sit around and be like, well, that Black man, that Black American guy, he made Mexican history. He's one of the greatest. He created the greatest Mexicans, in the history of time. No. You don't make history for another group. You're supposed to make history for your own group. So these 3 Black people getting a job is very nice and wonderful. But what I said, let's think about this for a minute. These 3 Black people who got selected for this job had to be super talented to get this job. They had to literally be 1 in a million. Mark Davis, he didn't get a job. He got an inheritance. His father created a power base. His father made sacrifices. Whenever I'm intrigued by somebody, I read their bio and I go back a generation or two because I want to understand. When I want to understand the apple, I read about the tree. So I read about his dad and his dad going all the way back to his father's childhood. I'm like, how did you get to the point where you owned an entire NFL football team? And how did your son become an owner of a team? I want to see what your life was like when you were making $25,000 a year. And how did you go from $25,000 a year to making millions? That's what you do. That's how you reverse engineer your success. You reverse engineer that power. That's what you need to be studying. But instead, we got our kids out here studying how to get a damn job. We've always known how to get a job. Black people have always been invited into the big house. You ain't doing nothing new by simply going and saying, I want to go sit next to the master. I want to sit next to power and pretend like I actually have it. You ain't got no power. You've got the appearance of power. It's like instead of being a real soldier, I just put on a soldier's uniform and claim that I've been in a war. You're not a real soldier. You're pretending. You're wearing a costume. Or when I bring out my little puppet, this puppet has no life of its own. He has no ability to talk. We just pretend. We just pretend. And so a lot of our people are just puppets. A lot of our people, their whole reality is being shaped by somebody who has positioned themselves as a higher power in their life. And so I said, let's study Mark Davis and Al Davis and how did they get this power to gain an ability to make Black history in the eyes of some people? Well, it's a way of thinking. I'll say this: if Al Davis, if he thought the way many of our kids think, he never would be in a position to be the owner of the Raiders. If he was literally just a guy looking for a job or looking for a team to be a part of, instead of looking for a team to build and a team to create or a team to own, he wouldn't be where he is. So people like that get power because they think big. And I just really don't understand why it's so radical for me to say, think bigger. Think about, study how where this stuff comes from. And then at that point, you're less frustrated. You're not running around here begging people to create opportunities for you. You're creating opportunities for yourself. That's how our children need to be taught to think at an early age. In the Black Business School, we have an acronym that I hope you will teach your children called STURDY, STERDY, STERDY. It stands for the things our children need to learn about how to make money. They need to learn systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationship management, and delegation. And the Y stands for youth. The systems means that a system will make more money than a person. Jerry Jones makes money from a system. He doesn't make money by running a 4.340 and lifting and bench pressing 300 pounds. He makes money with a system called the Dallas Cowboys organization. Technology. Elon Musk is a multi-billionaire and probably makes, I'm going to guess something like probably $20 million a day because he understands technology at a very high level. A lot of our kids, when they learn technology at a high level, first thing we do is we say, oh, you should go to Howard. And then when you graduate, you can go get a good job. You can go work for Goldman Sachs or whatever, right? No, if you know technology, you can scale up your skill and actually turn that into something that makes you hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Entrepreneurship. We need more entrepreneurs because the entrepreneurs are the people that are going to hold it down for this society. HBCUs are powerful institutions that produce some of the most brilliant people I've ever met. My sister went to an HBCU. I wanted to go to one. I just didn't have the grades and didn't have the money. However, one of the problems is that HBCUs were created in a plantation landscape and with a plantation mindset. Their goal is to produce smart Black people to go serve white corporations, and you have to stop that nonsense. The only way, and the evidence of this is the fact that most of these schools are significantly underfunded. If you're producing entrepreneurs, your school will not be underfunded because some of these entrepreneurs will go on to make tens of millions of dollars a year. Some of them will become billionaires, and they're going to be the ones who write those $100 million checks that you need to fund the football program or to build a new building on campus or to do something significant to build that new dormitory. So my question becomes, with all the thousands and hundreds of thousands of graduates you're producing, all the doctors, all the lawyers, all the teachers, all the brilliant engineers, all the amazing people you're producing, where are your billionaires? Where are your multimillionaires? Where are your people that start billion-dollar companies that can come back and write the kind of checks that a Yale alumni association can write like that to be able to raise the money they need? Or the boosters at Texas A&M got all these white boys running oil manufacturing companies or they're drilling for oil. Oh, they can write $100 million check to hire a coach and pay him $12 million a year so their football program can get on track. I think literally the Texas A&M head coach, I think his buyout, they bought him out to get rid of him. If I'm not mistaken, forgive me if I get the numbers wrong, but I could have sworn they paid this man $75 million to walk away. They gave him $75 million to quit his job, and that money came from having boosters and alumni who are running billion-dollar companies. You can't do things like that when you're just producing employees that are there to serve other people. So mindset must shift. So you need those entrepreneurs in the community more than ever. The R stands for relationships. If you don't get a grip on your relationships, start getting some therapy, getting some healing, and fix that trauma that's screwing up your life, it will be very difficult for you to build or create almost anything. We've talked about this before. I'm not going to belabor this point today, but really that relationship management ability is critically important, because when you build a team and you build a system and you start delegating, you got to learn how to connect with and care about people. And that requires certain characteristics in your personality that are not very common, like things like humility and patience, and not going off and cussing people out and cutting people off every time you get mad, and learning how to find some way to submit to some purpose that's bigger than yourself. Yeah, that's required. I do that every day. Every day I submit to my team. I submit to my spouse. I submit to the children. And it's not because I'm being a punk or being a simp or being weak. It's because I'm trying to keep this damn thing together. I understand that leadership is service. And even I'm not a great leader yet. I'm trying to get better every day, though, I promise. So the last part, D, delegation. If you delegate, then if you understand delegation and you read books on how to do it properly, you will find that you can build the right kind of team and get a whole lot more done working together than you ever could do by yourself. A lot of you quit your jobs and start your businesses, and you try to become one man, one woman corporations. You literally become the super slave of the century by literally doing every single job in your organization, from the secretary all the way up to the CEO. You're running the marketing, you're doing the accounting, and you're doing everything, and you're working yourself into an early grave. And I understand money's tight, hiring people's hard to do, but delegation is a skill that you can learn. But also, the funny thing about delegation, this is where your therapy and healing has to come into play, is that delegation requires something that is very difficult to obtain from traumatized people, this thing called trust. Trust. How many of you have noticed, or maybe some of you feel this way, that it's really hard to trust people? It's really hard to trust. I'm raising my hand. I know this. It's hard for me to trust. I don't feel like you're going to do the job right if I give it to you. No, I got to do it myself. No, I need to be involved myself. I got to microman to make sure it gets done. Right. Well, that's your trauma talking, because you've been let down so many times. Maybe your daddy let you down. Maybe your friends let you down. Maybe your siblings let you down. Maybe you're mad because there was a crackhead down the street who shot your cousin for no reason. Right. That trust, or you went on some dates and you dealt with some crazy people when you were trying to get on the dating scene. Like, it's so many areas where we get traumatized and it kills our ability to trust. I think about how often I've been traumatized just by trying to be in the Black conscious space. Seriously, just being in the Black conscious space and dealing with people. A person. There was a guy in Hollywood I met one time, and this was years ago when I was doing more stuff with Damon Dash. And I would go to LA, and this guy, his name was Tony, and I trusted Tony because Tony understood me. He was a con artist. Tony, because he conned Master P also later on. But I didn't know he was a con artist. But Tony knew, he was very smart, and he knew the language. He knew how, hey, brother, how you doing, brother? We got to do this for our community, our people. We need to own for our people, blah, blah. Tony totally ripped me off. Totally screwed me. Right. And I was mad about that. I was really mad about it, because this guy deliberately learned the language. He knew, okay, if I'm talking to Dr. Boyce, if I talk this pro-Black stuff, that's going to make him trust me. And he got me to trust him and to give him money. And this man, and once I figured out that he was on some BS and I confronted him on a phone conversation, he got really angry and hung up on me. And karma comes back around. Like I said, he did the same thing to Master P, and Master P was going to kick his ass and kill him, I think. I don't know, or something like that. I don't know. I don't talk to Master. I don't know Master P like that. But I know that I know that he was very unhappy when he found out what went down. And the reality of it was that real life experience, that's one of 1,000 stories I could tell you. And so what it does is it requires a certain amount of resilience and a recommitment to the bigger picture to know how to make sure that betrayal does not cause you to lose your ability to trust other people. And this is therapy. This is healing. This is things like forgiveness and all these other things. So I think that learning these things as kids, I think we have to be intentional about that education. So I think things like the STURDY model, STERDY, give that to your kids. Remember, you're the number one educator of your kids, not that white lady from the suburbs, not that stupid public school where half the kids can't read. No, you're the educator for your child. We when we think about educating Black kids, we're thinking about what do they need. We're not looking at what everybody else is doing, because we have become firmly convinced that what is being done is not working. Black children are not being served by integration. Black people are not being served by these systems. Our children won't survive integration. Most of our children won't survive it. If you look around, I was watching the video today where they had a bunch of black kids that just broke into a store and were like running around the store, like looting the whole store. And it was just, I didn't know what to say. I hated it, you know? And of course there's like, you know, yeah, sure. There's some poverty and stuff kind of driving that behavior. I get all that, but also there's like a culture that they're being introduced to that just makes them into people that they're not supposed to be. You know, like there's a way to be poor and have dignity, right? And your ancestors had that. Your grandparents had that, you know, before integration. And now it's like every thing that we see. I think I saw another video of some little kids having like a gangster birthday party. Don't anybody see that? Where they had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and they were holding guns and they were pretending to be gangsters and they had big chains on and they had money on the table like dope dealers, you know, and it's just, and this is not, you know, poverty didn't make that happen per se. Poverty, you know, these kids, they look like a pretty nice birthday party. They were wearing nice shoes, so they clearly had some kind of money. This is culture. This is bad culture. This is toxic culture, and I think we have to confront that. I think we have to fight against that. So that's one of the reasons why I was really happy to see. If you haven't followed it, you got to go follow what D1 has been doing. D1, I love this guy. He's like a relative to me. We've known each other for years, and and I was super happy that the world was listening to his message and the world was taking his side, because I think black people are just sick of the nonsense. We're just sick of the crap. And I said, whatever you need from me, I'm there with you 100%, because it's about time we just stand up for ourselves. We have to do that. All right. So let me finish reading here a little bit. I'm on page 40 of the book, the Black History Reader. The website you can get a copy of this book is powernomics.com. And so it says here that meritorious manumission is often observed, especially in the ranks of Black elected officials, ministers, civil rights leaders, athletes, and entertainment personalities. These visible people, anointed by others as leading Blacks, are sometimes aloof and disconnected from their own race. They are often required to disavow and abandon their own people in exchange for public attention, financial resources, and personal comfort. Once co-opted by the power structure, they are effective tools to be used against or to control the Black masses. The divide and conquer scheme makes a Black minority even weaker and more exploitable. Blacks seeking meritorious manumission, for instance, will endorse political candidates knowing they will deliver nothing to Black people. Be very careful in this election season. All the shenanigans are going to start. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I really don't care. You can Democrat, Republican, whatever. You do whatever you want. And I just find it hilarious that people even think that that's a dangerous message. It's dangerous that you're telling Black people to do what they want. Like, well, what, do you want them to do what you want them to do? No, I think people should be free. I think you should be free to do what you want. So you're going to see this heavy in election season 2024. I guarantee you there's going to be some sort of crisis. There's going to be some situation that scares you, that's designed to scare you. And it's going to be probably something like, you know, if we don't vote, oh my God, I know you're mad about these other things, but we got to put all that to the side and make sure we keep Trump out of office or whatever. That's what they kind of do. That's sort of the fallback. Again, you believe what you want to believe, but if you want to know what I'm doing, I'm not budging. I'm not budging until certain demands get met, mostly around things like reparations. And when they really talk seriously about reparations and there's something in place that shows that they're going to deliver on that, I will go ahead and support something or someone. But and also, just in case you want to know, is it John Kennedy or Robert Kennedy? The Kennedy guy. His people reached out. I think they want to do an interview on my platform. And I don't normally talk to politicians. I may do an interview with him only because I like the fact that he's at least willing to explore ideas that are a little bit different from the standard Democrat Republican nonsense. He did an interview with the Earn Your Leisure guys and did a good job. And but I don't know if I'm still not sure if I'm going to do it because I don't like to be manipulated when it comes to politics. You go get your vote somewhere else. But now, Karen, what you said about him not supporting reparations, I heard he kind of changed his position, but I don't know what that means, right? I don't know. I've heard him say, or someone said he changed his position on reparations or something, but still, honestly, I don't believe that any of them really fully support you getting what you deserve. I also think that your path to economic prosperity is going to be available whether you get reparations or not. It is absolutely within your reach. Just embracing financial literacy concepts and making plans for the future means that within 10 to 20 years, any family in this room could be in the top 10% of all Americans in terms of wealth. It's not hard to do. It's very easy to do. Right. And Karen says he just wants your audience. Yeah, he does. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really not enthusiastic about the interview. I'm going to consider it. I may do it. I got to think about it because I want to be fair, but I'm not excited about it. Also, just because politicians, I just think, are so full of crap. They don't really solve real problems. And the American political system is just so bad. I don't think that's where our solutions lie. I just don't. So let me keep going. Let's see here. Once co-opted by the power structure, they are effective tools to be used against or to control the Black masses. The divide and conquer scheme makes a Black minority even weaker and more exploitable. Blacks seeking meritorious manumission, for instance, will endorse political candidates knowing they will deliver nothing to Black people. They will support integration with any group before seeking to strengthen their own people. Worst of all, those seeking modern-day meritorious manumission believe that the advancement of their own race is wholly dependent on the advancement of the white race and all the other peoples of the world. And that's an interesting point, right? There are people that believe that Black people can only be liberated once we convince white people to do it for us, right? And you see that a lot where people feel like, okay, you can't do this without the allies and this, that, and the other. I don't believe that. I'm not waiting for white people to evolve before I get what my family deserves. I don't think you should wait either. I think that you have a lot of the things that you need and you work with what you got. And the good thing about America, here's the thing: we can talk all day about the problems with America. We can complain about the issues, but there are also opportunities here. And one thing I can tell you is that I've never met a white man who stopped me from reading a book. I've never met a white man who stopped me from starting a business. I've never met a white man who stopped me from taking care of my kids. The way I run my house, not one white person. I have white people in my neighborhood all over the place, and never once has any of them showed up at my door and said, I'm taking over your house and I'm telling you what to do inside your own house. So ultimately, when you talk about these measures of quality of life, I like to keep it simple. Go back to just health, wealth, and relationships. Where's your mental and physical health? Where's your wealth, your financial security, your income, things like that, and your relationships? How are your relationships with the people that you want to have relationships with? Most of that, a lot of that is right there in your control. Now, what the world will do, though, is the world will try its best to manipulate you psychologically. And this is the reason why being mentally strong is so important, right? So, for example, when you talk about physical health, we know Black people are more likely to die from obesity-related illnesses, things like diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, heart disease, all this stuff. Right. And why does this happen? Well, because they market to you. They market fast food in the hood. They market the ho-hos and cupcakes and then the next thing you know, Merck and Pfizer come along with these shots that they tell you to take or whatever. Right. They're marketing, but they're not really in most situations, except maybe in the case of the COVID thing. They usually don't force you to do anything. Like nobody forces you to go eat Popeye's chicken. They just make it look really, really good. Right. Nobody forces you to drink liquor. Like nobody forces you to go, smoke this like jacked up artificial cannabis that they're putting out here in these streets. Like nobody forces you to do any of those things, but they will market it to you like crazy. So your mental toughness, your knowledge of self, your understanding of who you are and who you want to be is absolutely paramount in this whole game, because at the end of the day, really, 9 times out of 10, if you put yourself in a messed up situation, it's because of something that you did. Now, where I do believe white supremacy plays a huge role in this, though, is that they have convinced us, they have shifted the culture so much that the effort and energy and the amount of intentionality it takes for you to truly be yourself and be committed to the values that you stand for, it can be daunting at times, right? It just like in my world, for example, I get online, I say the things I say the things I believe. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you the truth. I don't read comments very often because there are so many ignorant people out here that's ridiculous. I don't want to have to fight with them. I don't want any of that in my head. I don't watch. I've had videos done about me. I don't watch any of those videos. Kevin Samuels did a whole show about me. I still haven't watched it. I never saw it. I heard he said good things about me, and I appreciate that, but I never watched it because I have a policy. I don't watch videos about me because I don't want to hear what you got to say about me. My opinion of me matters more than your opinion of me. I'm like Deion said, Coach Prime said, what is it about you that makes you think that your opinion about me matters to me more than my opinion about me, right? So your opinion of me does not match the opinion that I have of myself. So I don't really want to hear any of that, and part of that is really quarantining my spirit. I really believe that the more enlightened you become, the more you must quarantine your spirit. The more you have to be diligent and careful and active about being thoughtful about anything that you allow into your space, into your mind, into your soul on any level. I don't want it. I don't want it. If it's crazy and chaotic and negative, I am walking in the other direction, period. I ain't got time for that. You want to be ignorant? Go be ignorant over there. Go be ignorant. Seriously. So I really think ultimately, I think this is something that can really help, right? Because if you are spiritually quarantined when it comes to your health, let's talk about health, mental and physical health. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that you're not worried about what the rest of the world is eating. You know what you're going to eat. You're going to eat vegetables every day and fruit every day. You're not eating sugar. You're going to go to the gym every day, right? You're not worried that 99% of all people don't go to the gym at 5 a.m. You're going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. With mental health, you're not concerned about the fact that you live in a society where so many people that need therapy won't get it. You're getting your therapy. You're doing your meditation, your mental health. You're getting on the internet and you're not scrolling looking for stupid stuff and drama and gossip. You're looking for motivational videos and self-help videos and videos on how to improve your business, because that's available too. That's available too. But all the drama is very enticing, right? It sucks you in. The distractions will suck you in. But because you've quarantined yourself and you have that intentionality every morning when you get up. Like I get up in the morning, first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I meditate. That's a suggestion for everybody in here. I meditate because it's like I want to remember and remind myself who I need to be and not let who I choose to be affected by what anybody else is doing around me, including, don't tell her, but including my wife. I love my wife, but even my wife, if my wife comes in with something that I'm not in alignment with, that ain't in alignment with who I think Boyce Watkins needs to be, I can't hear none of that. Baby, I love you. Oh, well, you're so cute when you just said that ignorant ass thing that I can't identify with. But I love you and I stand by you and I'm not going to judge you because that's your life. Yeah, that's real talk right there, right? Not everything that we believe is always the same, and it's okay, right? You just have to decide, pick your path. Pick your path. Don't get me wrong, though. 99% of the time, we're good. That 1%, you're like, okay, good luck to you on that. All right. So I think that quarantining, I think, is important. I think also, if you look at things like wealth and economics, just understand 90% of all Americans do not manage their money properly, do not make good economic decisions, do not get adequate financial training, and don't think about money in the right way. So you're going to have to be very intentional about landing yourself in that other 10%, right? And that success does not typically happen by accident. It's like driving to a destination in a car. If you're going from Chicago to Orlando, you're not going to be able to get in the car and just randomly drive around and then somehow end up in Orlando, because 99% of all the cities that you'll end up in are not named Orlando. You're going to have to be intentional. You got to look at the map, figure out where Orlando is, plug Orlando in your GPS, stay focused, keep driving on the same freeway until you get to the signs that say Orlando, follow the signs that say Orlando, ignore all the other signs, and get your butt to Orlando. So my question is to you, this question I'm asking you today, is what is your Orlando? What is your destination? What does that mean for you? What are your top 2 or 3 goals? You know, let's set, like we read some Dr. Anderson. I'm gonna finish this last paragraph of the book, but I really want you to walk away with something that's gonna make you more the person you want to be. Because I told y'all, those of you who came to the All Black National Convention, you might remember when I said at the end, I said, I never want to see you again. I never want you to ever come back to this convention again, because when you come back, I need you to be a different person, right? So I never want to see you again. So I never want to see you again. What is it that you're going to do in the next 3 months that is so transformational that you're going to remember this period for the next 5 or 10 years. 5, 10 years from now, you're going to remember that decision you made to make that transformation. Well, what is that one thing? Pick that one thing, right? To what's this, November 15th. So maybe we give ourselves until, I don't know, March 15th or something. So give us those 3 to 4 months, give yourself time and pick that one thing you're going to change. Right? That one thing related to health, that one thing related to leveling up, that one thing related to your finances, that one thing related to your relationship, that one thing related to your kids, that one thing related to your happiness and well-being. I want you to pick that one thing, and I want you to really be intentional about that one thing and practice that spiritual quarantine that we talked about, because that's essential in this crazy, stupid world that we live in. I'm not saying everything's stupid, but some of this stuff, I want no parts of it at all. I enjoy being a hermit. I enjoy being disconnected. And the thing is, you have to have the courage to be disconnected also, which means that you're not always going to get credit for following the crowd. So let me read here this last paragraph, and then we're going to finish up for today. It says, Meritorious manumission. This is page 40 of the book, The Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson. He says, meritorious manumission opportunities today are typically presented as symbols and incentives, like Grammy Awards and Oscars, financial incentives for satisfying race relations, such as being asked to support public policies that subordinate the interests of Native Black Americans to the interests of women, LGBT, immigrants, and other fabricated minorities, like maybe, Zionists in Israel. I'm not sure, but you can make your own judgment on that. Most Black civil rights leaders and elected officials that allow these groups to be equated to and ranked over Blacks are seeking their meritorious manumission. So keep your eyes on Fox, CNN, or NBC television news channels and see if you can identify Blacks seeking and getting meritorious manumission and rewards and recognition. So Dr. Anderson says that nothing's changed under the sun. There are people that get incentivized to do things that don't have anything to do with the Black community in a positive way, but they are also rewarded for their ability to manage and control the Black community. So one way I describe this is that we don't really have Black leaders. We really have Negro managers. We have people whose job it is to not lead you to a better place, to not help you achieve freedom or to do what's best for you. Their job is to rally you up, corral you up, and get you to do something, right? And there's nothing necessarily unethical about them trying to do this. This is what happens, right? You're trying to sell a Disney movie to Black people. Well, you get the right Black people to go promote that movie, and they don't they don't care that Disney is getting all the money from the next Black Panther movie. They just want you to go and talk to your people and get your people to do something. And so ultimately, what I would encourage you, the reason it's important for you to understand this is that you got to really sort of get away from this false idea that because another person is Black, that they have the Black community at heart when they're choosing their agenda. Right? That because they're Black, that they're embracing a Black first mentality. If you show up and you ask me to do something and you say, hey, brother, I'm Black just like you, why don't we go down this path together? My first question is going to be, who do you work for? Because look, if I see my cousin, and I know that my cousin loves the family and I love the family, then I'm going to assume me and my cousin are going to do what's best for the family. But if I see my same cousin and he's wearing a Burger King uniform, I'm not going to assume that we're going to do what's best for the family right now. I'm going to assume that we're going to do what's best for Burger King, right? Because that's what he's doing. He's wearing a Burger King uniform. Right. So why wouldn't he be serving Burger King when he's wearing a Burger King uniform? So a lot of your Black leaders are wearing Burger King uniforms. That's what they're doing. They're not serving you. They're serving the people who are paying the bills. Politicians are not serving the voters who got them into office. They serve the people who wrote the check to allow them to advertise to get the voters in the first place. It's logic. This is logical. Because if they don't do that, if they somehow serve you over their original master who wrote the damn check, do you think that the master's going to write another check? He ain't stupid. He ain't going to write a check for something he's not going to get. He wants what he paid for. I'm not even mad at them for doing this. I'm not. What I am trying to do, I'm not mad at anybody. How about that? I'm not going to be mad today. What I'm saying is I need you to make sure you know the difference. Because if you don't know the difference, they're going to manipulate and exploit that. So my cousin who doesn't understand, or who thinks I don't understand that him being in a Burger King uniform means that he has a different agenda, he's going to try to use the fact that he's my cousin to get me to go with him to Burger King, right? Because he's incentivized to get more customers into the store. Do you understand? So those Black folks who are aligned with Democrat or Republican parties, who go to Black people and say, vote for Trump like me, or vote for Biden like me, they're not doing that out of service to the Black community. They're doing that out of service to their original master. And I like talking to the Black people who ain't got no master. I want to talk to the Black people who are wearing the same uniform as me. And one thing I can tell you is that when I talked to you today, when I chose to speak to you today, nobody gave me permission to do this. Nobody said, Doc, we need you to go talk to Black people so you can get them to go vote for somebody or whatever. No, that did not happen. I made that decision. And so my uniform, everybody wears a uniform. My uniform is the Black uniform. This is the Black team. So bliggity Black. So if that's who you are, then you're going to identify with that. But if that's not who you are, then you're going to identify with something else, right? But that's my bias. Everybody has a bias, right? So ultimately, I would ask you to just sort of consider that when you're looking at how politics works, when you're looking at how, when you talk about the music industry and stuff like that, right? How that works. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who's a rapper and I love him. I really do. He's a good guy. But I know that he really, really supports artists. So any argument he makes about hip hop and the problems in hip hop, I already know where it's going to go. It's going to be 8 plus 5 plus 2 plus 12 to the third power divided by 18 equals. It's okay for the artist to say that. That's what it's going to be. 7 plus 10 divided by 9 plus alpha minus automobile is going to equal. The artist has a right to say that because he's big on artists having free speech, and that free speech trumps anything that an artist might say. An artist raps about getting your child hooked on drugs. Well, he's an artist. He deserves to have free speech. So it's okay. It's just entertainment, right? And I get that. He's incentivized to say that. So ultimately, you have to understand these incentives if you want to understand people. So you're not going to get manipulated by this. And I think the same thing is also true when we think about things like the school system, right? When I look at the school system, you think about like a city like Chicago, I see these teachers unions. And I believe these teachers unions do care about the kids, but they don't care about the kids more than they care about their paycheck or their rights as teachers, right? They don't, right? So when I look at the teachers unions, I say, I support you kind of, as long as what I'm supporting will always support the kids, because I'm here for the kids. I'm not really here for you and your pay raise that you're fighting for. I respect that. I appreciate that. You deserve it. You deserve triple the salary that you're making. I respect that immensely. But if the children aren't being educated, all I care about is fixing whatever problem there is that's causing these kids to leave your school without being educated. In my book, if I was president of the United States, you wouldn't get a nickel for a broken school. I would take every penny out of your budget and I would go right down to the Freedom Home Academy International with Marcus Klein, who's the director of that excellent school. And I would give him all of your money because he knows how to educate Black children and you don't. I would go to the Muhammad University of Islam, where they've got 12-year-olds who think like graduate students. And I would give every penny of your budget to that school so that these children can get what they need. That's what I would do, right? Because here's the thing. You have so many people who are accustomed to putting their agenda at the front of the line, and it ends up distorting, diluting, disrespecting, and disregarding any aspect of the Black agenda. There are hardly zero. There really aren't any prominent Black people on television who are able to walk firmly and clearly with a clear Black agenda, because it is extremely difficult to achieve the level of economic power and sovereignty required to be able to walk that walk. That's why, a lot of artists and politicians and everything, that's why they can't sort of be Black first, because they have to honor the person that's paying the bills. So really, if you want to have freedom, you're going to have to pay your own bills. That's my point. And so sometimes when I'm talking about the Black business school, I get it. Some people get mad. They're like, why do you sell things? Why do things have to have a price attached? Why can't everything be free? I'm like, because freedom's not free. You can't run an institution on free. And if I ever tell you that I'm running this on free, then you better watch out, because that means I'm getting the money somewhere, and you better find out who's paying it, because that person's agenda is going to become the Boyce Watkins agenda. It won't be Boyce's agenda. Boyce will be no more powerful than the puppet that I showed you guys a few minutes ago. So by not wanting to be a puppet, that means I have to endure the horrifically difficult task every year, every single week, every month of finding a way to raise all the money that we need to stay as independent as we can be, to be completely independent. That's what we are. We're doing this. We're getting this done. We're making this happen. So find your way to financial independence, and you will find your way to freedom. This does not just apply on an aggregate level. This applies on a personal level. A person that can pay his own bills, can write his own rules, make his own choices. You ain't got to sit around every day complaining about how white folks ain't treating you right. That's not even a conversation that me and my wife end up having, because my whole world centers around her and the kids. And there's some weeks we don't even leave the house. So find your freedom. Their freedom is in economics. This country is run by economics. That should be the number one thing that your children understand from an early age. It should be a consistent conversation that you have with them every single day. You really are preparing them for battle. You are preparing them for battle, because the consequences are that if you do not prepare them for battle by giving them the armor and the shields and the strategy and the weapons that they need in order to be safe, then somebody's going to come along, string up your child, turn them into a slave, and it'll be your damn fault. Your fault for not preparing. I'm not trying to put no pressure on you, but I am putting pressure on you. I'm trying to be 100% real with you. The slavery is deep. And in so many cases, we sign ourselves up for slavery. We sign our kids up for slavery. And then we complain about how hard it is to be a slave. Well, what I'm saying is that I believe that if we focus on this enough, we can have enough intentionality to avoid that whole BS in the first place. We can avoid all that. But you got to make a plan. What's your plan? What's your level up? What's your intentionality going to be? That's my question for you today. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate it. Thank you for the team, Shauna and Tierra, for holding it down. I appreciate y'all, as well as the rest of the team who's not here. Also, if you have any questions about anything happening in the Black Business School, or we can help you on any level, there's an email. The email is support@theblackbusinessschool.com. support@theblackbusinessschool.com. We do Powernomics training every Wednesday, so make sure so I'll see you guys next week. And also tomorrow night, we're going to have the Q&A with Jay Cameron on our group trip to Egypt. My wife and I, we're going to go to Egypt next fall. And so if you'd like to join us on the Egypt trip, Shauna will put the link in there. If you are not inside the Zoom, you can also find the link on my Twitter, which is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1, Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. I'll leave that up there. Also, last but not least, my new book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We do have flashcards with that book now. And so if you go to drboycebooks.com and you click on the flashcard link, you can actually find the flashcards. We created the flashcards so you can train your kids on the concepts from the book in a really simple, family-friendly sort of way. And they're proprietary ideas that we put together in the Black Business School, because all we do is we focus on Black wealth. That's our number one obsession. That's what we think about every single day. We are the leading Black wealth experts on this planet. We're damn good at what we do. So anyway, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me. It was real, and I appreciate you 100%. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.